Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. So you look at temperatures across the U.S. early on this Friday morning, we've got a cooler air mass trying to make its way in across the north. Ahead of the front, we've got 60s and 70s widespread across the eastern Corn Belt into the mid-Atlantic. Behind the frontal boundary, 30s and 40s making their way in from the Dakotas across the northern Great Lakes. And we can see that satellite, or we can see the surface reflection here with the satellite picture. You see the counterclockwise swirl here, fairly disorganized, but we've got the warm air advection on the leading edge there, those 60s and 70s, that tropical air mass still streaming northward from the Gulf of Mexico. But on the backside, we've got a pattern change. We've got a cooler, drier air mass making its way in, and that's going to set the stage for a hotter and drier air mass across the Corn Belt. So we take a look at the radar reflectivity. We do still have some rain activity making its way across eastern portions of the Corn Belt. That frontal boundary right now stretching from right around Lake Michigan down in across central Illinois into eastern Missouri. And so we've got some light showers making their way across central Illinois into Indiana and Ohio. Some heavier showers making their way from Lake Michigan across the state of Michigan. And we'll see those showers and storms flaring up as we head through the afternoon hours, especially across portions of Indiana, Ohio, down into Kentucky and Tennessee. We'll take a look at that here with the high-resolution NAM model. Let's go ahead and bring it back to this Friday morning. Again, watching those showers making their way across the region. As we head into the mid part of the afternoon, right around 2 or 3 o'clock, that's when this corridor, we'll see it lighting back up with scattered showers and storms, maybe a strong storm producing some gusty winds or some brief large hail across the region, but really talking about mostly just some non-severe shower and storm activity making its way through as this frontal boundary exits the area by the time we get into the overnight period tonight. So we head into the weekend then, looking at a cooler air mass setting up across the midsection of the country. We're going to see a pattern here where we've got high pressure off to the north here across the Great Lakes with a weak area of low pressure across the central plains. And we're going to get kind of a setup here where we've got the flow coming around this high and then around this area of low pressure where we get a bit of convergence here across the central plains, and that's going to allow for some showers to develop, maybe a few thunderstorms kind of across eastern Nebraska down towards Kansas City as we head through the day on Saturday, leaving at least maybe some light precipitation in that region, possibly even into Saturday night into Sunday. Taking a look at the total precipitation then as we head through the weekend, this will take us into at least Sunday afternoon. This is the precipitation that falls here as we head through the day today. That gets out of here by the time we get to Friday night. And then as we head through the day Saturday into Saturday night, maybe Sunday morning, looking at those showers and storms forming there, kind of just along this convergent boundary across portions of eastern Nebraska down toward the Kansas City area, maybe a few tenths of an inch, perhaps the location picking up close to half of an inch or maybe an inch of rain, but very localized rainfall amounts from that situation. And that is good news. As we look at the last 14 days of total precipitation, a departure from normal. We see a lot of blue shading there as we make our way from the Gulf Coast into the Great Lakes and then across the Mid-Atlantic as well. Some of these areas seeing 5 to 6 inches of precipitation in excess over the last 2 weeks. And as we break it down another way, the last 7 days of total precipitation, you see a lot of that dark shading, that dark purple shading, and then even some of the yellow showing up where we've got 6 to 7 inches of precipitation again across a big corridor from the Gulf of Mexico into the Great Lakes, where again we just had the open access to the Gulf of Mexico. We didn't have quite the upper level support for widespread outbreaks of significant severe weather. We didn't see the tornadoes and the extreme large hail in the frequency and the spatial coverage we typically see in late May. This is a seasonal max for severe weather here as we head through late May into early June. We didn't have that. But we didn't have fronts clearing the Gulf of Mexico either. We just had open access there, kind of stalled out boundaries meandering across the region. And it was a setup for some of these slow-moving clusters of storms that dropped a lot of rain as it wrung out that tropical air mass across the region. So great news then. If I show you the jet stream pattern, folks will recognize this one. We've got a big ridge setting up across the central part of the country. After we deal with this initial cool down over the weekend into early next week, this is going to set up a much warmer and drier pattern across the midsection of the country. Some of the first summer warmth in some of these locations as we head into the middle and late part of next week. As we take a look at the next 10 days, precipitation departure from normal or precipitation anomaly forecast, a big area of brown shading here across the Corn Belt, and that's great news. Again, we have some localized areas that could see some showers and storms over the next 10 days, but by and large, broadly, a much drier pattern across the Corn Belt as we head into the first week of June. Another way to look at that, the European model, probability of 1 inch or more of precipitation accumulating between now and June 4th. Again, we're pinging some very light colors here, and I'm probably overcomplicating it, but just showing you to a couple locations here, maybe 5, 10, 20% chance of picking up an inch of rain here with some of these showers here as we head through. This would be the Saturday and Sunday chance, and then I'm going to show you the precipitation forecast here. We do have a late week frontal boundary that concerns me maybe for some showers and storms across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the eastern Corn Belt. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but by and large, a warmer, drier pattern here. This is the next 10 days temperature anomaly forecast, and then again, you can draw the jet stream pattern in here. Underneath that ridge, much warmer conditions as storm systems and cloud cover are developed well off to the north across the Canadian Prairie. So here's where we can dive into some of the specifics, what specifics we do have for precipitation over the next 7 days. Again, we've got our precipitation exiting the eastern Corn Belt as we head through the day today. We're finally going to put that one to bed. We then, as we head into Saturday and Sunday, have this situation here, kind of that convergent boundary across the Central Plains here. We're talking about, eastern Nebraska down toward northwestern Missouri. And again, that is just a result here, this kind of a convergence between the area of high pressure across the Great Lakes, a weak area of low pressure across the high plains here, across maybe the front range of Colorado, just tapping into some of that moisture across the region, creating scattered showers and storms. As we then take it deeper into the early part of the week, we see that pattern coming to an end. We start to build the ridge in across the central part of the country. Now, what I'm watching is this area of low pressure that's making its way across the Canadian Prairie, but then kind of riding that ridge back southward toward the Great Lakes. Along and south of that frontal boundary, or along and south of that storm system, I just gave away the answer. We're going to have a frontal boundary that stalls itself across the eastern Corn Belt back into the mid-Mississippi Valley. At the same time, we're going to be building that much warmer air mass back into the region. We're going to have a very unstable air mass along and south of that frontal boundary with perhaps just enough upper level support to kick off one or more rounds of showers and storms across, again, the mid-Mississippi Valley here into the eastern Corn Belt. This is kind of the region that I'm watching as we head into Wednesday, Thursday, and then maybe Friday of next week. The potential for maybe one or more clusters of storms across the region, maybe even some severe weather. But again, this is kind of well out into the future where we've got a couple opportunities to talk about it between now and then. I guess I'm just kind of letting you know it is out there. I'm talking a lot about a drier pattern, but let's not sleep on this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday setup across this region. Some of these areas have been hit hard by heavy rain over the last 2 weeks, so any additional heavy rain for maybe any slow-moving clusters of thunderstorms could potentially be problematic. So just something to watch for as we head into around June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Perhaps some localized heavy rain within this broadly drier pattern. And again, here's a look at the instability forecast, our convective available potential energy as we look at the evening of Wednesday, June 3rd. And again, with that frontal boundary just kind of stalled right across this region, maybe a little jet stream support there, and we're talking about instability values here pushing into those high to extreme summer levels when we get those 80s and 90s and that June, July tropical moisture across the region. It sets the stage for an explosive environment. So if we have a frontal boundary across this region, any sort of upper level support as we head into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that could kick off some moisture-filled thunderstorms across the region, at least bringing some localized precipitation. But by and large, much drier pattern as we head into the next 10 days, and we can take a look at the precipitation forecast, just raw from the European model here over the next 10 days. Again, we'll take it through Saturday morning. We see the storm system departing across the east. Let's then watch the precipitation accumulate here Saturday and Sunday across the central plains here, parts of Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. Again, light in nature, maybe a half of an inch of precipitation across parts of these areas in a very local corridor. We'll then take it into a quiet Monday and Tuesday before, here it is, Wednesday and Thursday. You're watching this region right here, potentially lighting up with some showers and storms as we stall that frontal boundary across the region. We'll talk about the details of that one as we get into next week. For now, let's watch the transition in our temperatures. Again, a cooler air mass making its way in first. We're then going to watch this much more warm air mass beneath that ridge begin to shift off to the east as we head into early next week. So let's watch the transition. Your highs for the day on Friday, 50s and 60s across the Great Lakes, 70s elsewhere across the region. It's going to be a cool weekend. Cool but pleasant. Lots of sunshine, 60s and 70s. I'll take it here as we head through the weekend, but you're seeing that warm air mass shifting to the east, such that by the time we get to the central, or we get to Monday, the central and northern plains into the 80s and 90s, those 80s and 90s begin to spread into the Midwest as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Here are your highs on June 3rd. Again, when we get to be talking about the chance for maybe some showers and storms across this region. Have a great day, a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday morning.